you can't handle yourself by yourself when you're single, you best believe you're not gonna handle yourself when there's an actual girl that's attracted to you.
Yep.
You're gonna fail every time.
Mm-hmm. No, like Jesus actually came and like paid the price so that I could be free. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Torvald Talk. In this episode, me and my friend Jay Fan, we talk about things that we wish we knew when we were younger. I hope you enjoy this episode. Leave a comment, leave a review. Hope you enjoy it. Peace.
Probably start with whatever one was about being humble. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be an expert, but don't be a know-it-all. Mm-hmm. Or no, actually, you can always learn someone from everyone, no matter who they are. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably a good one to start with.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've had to learn the hard way. Of like, you know, you think that you're somebody and you think that you know something, but then whenever you get in a room with other people, like that do that skill or that vocation. Yeah. And then you like you come in and you like kind of know it all about it. Mm-hmm. Or you kind of just, y'all are idiots and y'all don't know what you're doing, or, oh, you just do X, Y, and Z and this is how you fix the problem. When in reality, it's like, oh, wait, no, these people who have been doing it for a longer time actually see a couple other problems that you didn't think through, or because maybe you're not as fully in this thing or know as much, that you kind of overlook some things and you go, oh, I'm actually an idiot. And I just said some things, or I did some things. They'll be like, oh, how could you not do this? But then whenever you actually think about it from their perspective, it goes, oh, I don't know anything. I'm just whatever. I think specifically how that carries into as young people, as like teenagers. I remember when I was a teenager, I thought, oh, all these, and even sometimes, and I have had to get myself, because I know it's not true, but of like all these older people, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, for real. When in reality, older people are a lot farther along than you are. And you might, as a young person, maybe sometimes come at it from a new perspective. Sure. But you are not always the foremost authority on something. Yeah, I would say probably one thing I feel like I've learned a lot is along that is like, probably I would say specifically my parents. If I could go back to my 17 or 18-year-old self, I would just tell them to listen to my dad more. Cause I have a good relationship with my dad. But I always had that like perspective of like, I have a different perspective. Like I can figure things out on my own. And like, yeah, you should figure some stuff out on your own, but learn how to balance between taking what your mom or dad or whoever it is says and then making your own decision. Don't just do what they told you to do. Cause I had a mentor, for a little while, and it turned out to be just not good for me. But it was basically like, I would do whatever he told me to do. I would present him with like whatever situation, like having what I wanted to do. But then I would just do whatever he told me to do. Cause like, you probably know it's best. And then you're older. And then went to like the far other side of like, I'm not listening to anyone. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm going to figure things out on my own. And that led me to do, stupid things and make dumb mistakes, but you learn from them. I would say, I think the thing I've realized most and like super recently is like, there is a pattern to the world. Like things happen in patterns. And so part of like listening to older people, especially your parents. Granted, both my parents like live godly lives. They both love the Lord. They love people around them well. They have like a good holding pattern for their life. And so their credentials are there to take advice from them. But also like you have to realize like the advice they're giving is because they've been on earth for 60 something years. Like they've seen how things work out in patterns. And like there is, Ecclesiastes says there is nothing new under the sun. So at some point you reach a place where you're like,
Yeah, I've seen pretty much everything. Like there's not a lot of new stuff. And I think there's wisdom in that. I know like the Lord, obviously, because there's always more to him. But just in like dealing with things and situations in life, like there does reach a point where you're like, yeah, I've seen for 6 decades now. I've seen pretty much everything you can see. I've been through everything that you could go through.
Yeah. So then who are you as a 20-something-year-old or a 15-year-old?
Or 18, bro. Oh my gosh. Thinking about conversations with my dad. At 18, I was like, I would have freaking punched myself in the face if I was 18 telling that to me now at 23. Yeah, I would say as a young man, probably the most important thing is just be humble. Don't think that you've got it figured out. You don't. And you won't ever figure it out, I think is the reality. But be humble and be okay with making mistakes, but keep a pure heart in what you do and do it to love others well and be okay. Like, I think the biggest thing for guys, like when they're young is like, there's just this like, I don't know if it's like testosterone or whatever, but it's like, I don't want to submit. Like, I do not want to submit to authority. Like like you said, like you're a challenger. Like there still is like if I don't trust you or you can't give me a good reason to do this or to not do it, I'm gonna make my own decision. And I think there's a really big advantage to choosing to go, you know what? I probably don't know everything. I'm gonna chill for a second and I'm gonna listen to some people and get some advice and be okay submitting to someone else because I respect them as a person. Like, when I think of someone that I'm like instantaneously, I like saw it, like would be Justin Kessler. Like if I went to him with a situation, I wouldn't even question what he told me just because of the way that he lives his life and the way that he treats people and serves the Lord. And I would say get under someone who you can trust and who lives their life in such a way where like the people around them are better for that person being in their life. And like don't think you have it figured out. And be okay with having your own opinion and then having your own, like, I'm gonna do this. And then when this wiser person says, hey, that's stupid, don't do that. Be okay with not doing that thing and take their advice and pray about it instead of just doing it anyways.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that it does tie into that about being teachable, of being like, yeah, you don't have it figured out, and you will be wrong. That's one thing that for me, I had to learn to be okay with being wrong, because I think as men specifically, and as younger men, so like to advice to our younger selves of like, dude, like, you're gonna be wrong. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to say stupid stuff, and you have to be okay with it. And you can get upset, or you can be embarrassed, or you can be, oh, this person told me I'm wrong, or oh, this person overruled me, or oh, whatever. You can either get upset about it, or you can learn from it. I think a lot of people just get too offended too quickly whenever they get challenged. I can say that because I am very much that way of like, if I get challenged on something, especially something I think that I've thought through, whenever someone brings a very like, just like off the bat, be like, hey, have you thought about this? And it's like a really good, my like brain goes, oh, I didn't think about that. And then that whole thing just kind of tears down whatever it was that I just like thought through. It makes you go, it gets me irritated because I'm like, dude, I'm a freaking idiot. Like, how did I not think of this? But then an offended person would get offended and just be like, whatever you're saying, I don't need to hear it. But a smart person would be like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, okay. Well, then how did these things that maybe you just totally obliterated what I just said, how did those things, maybe some of it is true, but then through this other lens, how does then that actually make sense? Or actually is helpful? Because I think there's been a lot of times where I've like been talking with, my parents are talking to, Justin, of somewhere I've been like, I'm doing this, or I'm thinking about doing this or whatever. And they're like, well, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? Or maybe you don't have to do that. Or, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that because of this, this, and this. And you go, Oh, and you
Didn't
might,
even
and
clock those.
I have been the guy where I've been frustrated whenever you'll tell me that. But then if I think about it long enough, I go, you know what? They're right.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't let everyone speak into your life. I am very lucky to have people in my life who understand me and know that my personality can sometimes be a little headstrong. And
Yeah, bro, just a little bit, just that tiniest bit. Not like a bull in a china shop. Oh wait, that's exactly accurate.
Yeah, that's right. But that get it and that are that same personality, but have had their rough edges knocked off after years, and have become wiser people for it. And so I'm very blessed to have people like that in my life who've helped knock the rough edges off of me. That it might be uncomfortable in the moment, but it's good, and I need it.
Yeah, I'll say another huge thing I wish I could tell my younger self is like to not overthink things. Like I was a guy that like, man, like I overthought everything to the point where like I was not even good at making decisions. And even like with the plan for my life, I look back and I think of things like, I know that I'm called to ministry. And so like I just pursued that really hard, like in any way that I could, because I want to, first and foremost, want to be obedient to what God's called me to do. But that led me to like, I was like, I mean, even with certain jobs I would take or wouldn't take, was based around like, I have to be available. I have to be this available for the church that I'm serving at. Like I can't have a job that interferes with that. And like, that's good. But like, you need to work. You need to work as a man. Like you need to work. You need to be able to take care of yourself and provide for yourself. And I don't mean like you don't need the Lord. Like God will bless He will provide for you through whatever you're doing for work. And it's not so complicated. Like it's super simple. Like I work at Chick-fil-A now. I'm a manager at Chick-fil-A and I have the freedom to do ministry on the side. Like I still do full-time ministry. Your life is full-time ministry. Yep. You don't need to go pursue the ministry job. You can not slowly, it'll feel slow, but it will just be on track. It's just work, work, like take care of yourself, take care of the people around you the best you can, and serve the Lord in full-time ministry of your life as full-time ministry. And then, something I've had a hard time is like, just trust that He'll direct your steps. Like it doesn't have to be some like super over spiritually, like the voice of the Lord, though He does speak like that and He has to me, but of just like, man, it's okay to work in something that you like. And then whatever you're called to, honor Him where you are and do what you have to do to take care of yourself rather than foregoing it to go after the thing you're called to do. Well, you can't make it to the thing you're called to on your own. Yeah. But right now I have to work. I have to take care of myself and people around me. Yeah. And when He wants to place me in what I'm called to, He will open the door for my calling, for anyone, like whatever that is, like He'll open that door for you. And I just remember like, I never stayed at a lot of jobs for like super long. And honestly, like there are a couple jobs I wish I would have just stayed at rather than like going somewhere else because I thought there was a ministry opportunity there that I would have been able to be in full-time ministry, which wasn't a bad thing. I just look back and go, man, like there are just some decisions I made that were a little bit rash that I wish I would have just been a little bit slower. I would have not overthought it or overthunked myself to the point where I was like, well, if I don't do this, then this is going to happen. I got to do this to be able to do what God wants me to do. At the end of the day, like, it's not that deep. Like it is, but it isn't. But like, yeah, life is complicated. Yeah. But it's also broadly way simpler than we think it is. Yeah. Like it really is. And so I wish I could go back and tell myself, yo, just, you know what you love to do. So do that, and God will open the door or His calling on your life because He's the one who can do that. Yep. You can't get yourself. You can't speed up the process. And if you try and force it, then you'll be in a place you shouldn't be. And then before you're ready for it, and then not only are you going to be in a tough spot, but you're also going to affect other people because you're not ready for where you've been because you tried to force yourself into a position that you were not ready for. Yeah, that's good. I think another thought on the same lines of like, for me, one of the things that God has taught me and what I would tell my younger self and still myself today,
you have to be a good steward of the season that you're in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Because if you're not, because I'm the same way where I'm like, oh, God called me to this. Cool. But to get to that, there are some other steps that you have to go through to be able to get to that place.
Yeah.
Like for example, to do a podcast or to learn how to do social media, I had to learn how does a camera work? How does audio work? How does lighting affect stuff? I'm not saying this is fantastic lighting, but how does lighting work? How does audio work? What microphone should I get? Should I be spending $100 or $300 on a microphone? No, actually, I can probably just use my phone. But how to get to making a video or wanting to like make something, there are processes that you have to do and skills you have to acquire to be able to do that thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with life. And there's a lot of people that will, myself included, that will be like, well, I'm not in my right thing that I'm supposed to be doing. Well, it's like, well,
that's okay.
Guess what? So, same as yours of like, I feel called to full-time ministry in more of a, I work at a church. That's a whole nother conversation, but like,
yeah.
I get the opportunity.
Your life is ministry.
Yeah. As a Christian, your life is ministry. Yeah. But I have the opportunity to work at a church. Well, that was something that the Lord put on my heart about a year and a half ago, that the Lord, so I was in ministry before, for about 2 years. The Lord really then after the second year, the Lord really opened my heart and my mind to be like, oh wait, no, you're called to this. But the Lord then had to take me out, for a season, for about a year and a half. And the Lord had to refine me, and he had to hide me. And he had to work some things out of my heart and out of my mind, and had to just continue to expand my vision. But during that time, I was doing landscaping. I was driving around in the blazing heat of Texas, changing sprinkler heads, sweating. I was outside doing things that I did not want to do, things that I did not feel like I was very good at. But in that season, what it allowed me to do for a year and a half, it allowed me to learn. I can't tell you how many podcasts I consumed. I can't tell you how many books that I listened to. I can't tell you how much time I had to think. And honestly, the Lord he got to just reveal stuff to me while I was driving my car down Woodlands Parkway, about myself, about people, about teaching me different things. There were so many things that had I not had that season of honestly wilderness, that I would not be where I am today. But also in that season of wilderness, you have to be faithful to then the season that you're coming up to. You can't just be, oh, my season right now, it sucks, or I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Actually, you are. Yeah. Wherever you are at right now, I would tell this to my younger self and to anyone else who's listening, wherever you are now, it's for a reason. Yeah. It could be, I can tell you this, another thing I'd tell my younger self, I've learned more of what not to do than to do in a lot of different aspects of my life, either by my own mistake or learning from other people's mistakes. And so.
Mostly my own.
Yeah. Mostly my own and watching others, but you have to be okay with the season that you're in.
Also, I saw this, what I want to say is I saw this quote. I have no idea where it's from, but it is, I just remember reading it and it's just always stuck with me. And it said, God is too sovereign for you to be somewhere that he doesn't want you to be. And so I thought that just hit me because I remember thinking like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing or what I'm called to do. Not saying like right now, but when I read this, I just remember going like, yeah, that's right. And you're thinking like, well, yeah, you have free will and you can choose to do whatever. I really do believe though that when you day in and day out are intentionally with everything in you, as you should be, pursuing Jesus, yielding to him and seeking his will, just being loved by him and loving him, being in a relationship with the Lord, he will direct your steps. It's a promise. And so he really is too sovereign for you to be somewhere you're not supposed to be or somewhere he doesn't want you to be. Yeah. Especially when you're seeking him and pursuing him daily and going after him daily, praying daily, reading daily, and seeking what he wants for your life. he'll direct you and he'll open the doors. And so I really believe, 18-year-old self, you are okay where you are. You don't have to worry about trying to force it, or 19 or 20-year-old self. Like, you don't have to force your way into something. Just pursue him daily and he'll lead you where he wants you to go. It's just that we get so antsy. I'm like, I want it now. I want to go now. I want to be there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't hate you can't hate or despise the season that you're in, because God has you there for a reason. And honestly, I think about that even now, because I would say, like, I've been in a season, and I'm probably still in a season where I'm like, yeah, I'd prefer that, like, I don't stay in this for like another week. That'd be fantastic. But the reality is, like, no, like, there's a purpose in what God's doing in me now. And there's things like that I've gone through over this past probably few months of this, that if I wasn't in this like weird, funky space, like, there's things that would not have gotten worked out in me, or it would have been in a different way or a harder way, or like later on down the road. But if you just submit and let him do his thing, God will work the things out of you that need to be worked out of you, and you'll be better for it. Because, there's another thing that you wrote down was, someone is always watching your life. And so if you're in a place where I'm like, I hate the season of my life, well, then most of the time you're probably not going to find yourself being super joyful. And one of the most attractive things about a Christian is joy. Like, Paul was in prison and wrote a bunch of books of the Bible in a pit in prison and was joyful. He said, rejoice in all things. So if you're at a loss for joy, then you're probably not seeing something right in where God wants you to be. And you're probably not being able to be a good witness to the people around you, or love the people around you well, if you're just frustrated with where you are, rather than just being like, okay, because it really is, Jesus is enough daily. Like, you may not love where you are, but if you're spending time with him daily, well, then you're satisfied if you're letting him satisfy you. And I really believe that is enough for any season. Hard and not super hard.
Yeah.
I would say the perfect example I have for don't hate the season that you're in, right when COVID hit, oh my gosh, I didn't have a job and I needed a job, and my dad was just like on me about getting a job, which was good. Like, I'd moved back from Georgia. I lived in Georgia, and that was just a tough season, a lot of just hurt and mistakes and like pain and like just a fiery trial. And it was just a really difficult like season, or a couple of months. And so I moved back, and then COVID hit, and I didn't have a job because I just moved back from Georgia. And the only job that I could get, and I applied like dozens of jobs. My dad knew a general manager at Sam's Club. The only job that I could get somehow was a stalker, 4 a.m. to 12:30. I hated it. I did not like it at all. I kept applying for jobs even after I started working there, because I'm like, I have to get out of here. But once I did start being okay with where God had me, or just choosing to like rejoice in where he has me and love the people around me well, and look for opportunities to pray for people and pray for my coworkers, I actually got to pray for one of our friends, Cal. And if I hadn't been there, literally, like, from praying for Cal, he started coming to church, and like has given his life to Jesus just for me inviting him to church and praying from that one, because I chose to be joyful like that day at work. And became like the guy that like was known for praying for people. And so if you're just despising your season, well, then if I was just frustrated at that, then I wouldn't have been able to pray for him, because no one would have even known that I was a Christian, because I wouldn't have been praying for people if I was just despising where I was at. And I tell you, it wasn't fun. I hated waking up at 3 o'clock in the stinking morning, but it didn't last that long. And then not long after I got to pray for Cal, and then he started coming to church, literally like later that week, a door was open for a job that paid like 3 times more and was a way better opportunity, like career-wise and hours and everything. And I was only at Sam's Club for I think like 2 months total. And I would say I would do it again if it meant someone came to know Jesus from it. And a lot of things got worked out of me, like the fact that you have to have a job, younger self, 18-year-old self, 19, whoever is watching this, like work, make a living, and
work hard.
Yeah, I said work and work hard, and learn to like working, because it is a part of this world, and there is no way out of working.
Yeah.
Like you work to build the kingdom.
Yep.
You work in relationships are work. Friendships are work. Everything. Honestly, anything that matters or anything that will bear fruit requires effort and requires work. So learn to like working because it is good for you. And you have to do it. So figure out how to not hate something that you have to do till the day you die.
Yeah. Find something that, and I always ask people this question. If money wasn't an object, what would you do? And people will tell me whatever. And I'm like, all right, well then do that. And whenever people tell me, oh man, I don't like what I'm doing. What do you like to do? Oh, I really want to do this. Well then go after that. Go after that dream. Like get good at the skills to do that thing. Like you are the only person stopping you. Like I think one thing to my younger self, I would tell myself, hey, you're the one that's in the way of what you want. We are our own caps. We are the people that stop us. Our insecurities are not wanting to do something. All of those things are the catalyst to why we don't achieve what it is that we want to achieve.
Don't even get started on insecurities, man. That's another thing I would like slap myself silly out of. Is like, dude, you got to figure out. Sometimes it takes longer for others than anything else, but you have, like Jesus is everything. You have to figure out how to get yourself to come in agreement with who God says you are.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, identity, and this was so I have this tattoo, it's consecrated. It says holy and anointed and set apart for God's purpose. Is because like for the longest time, man, like I thought I was just a sinner and I was just going to always struggle with sin for the rest of my life. When that's not biblically accurate. Like literally Colossians 1 says that you're made holy and flawless and blameless by what Jesus did on the cross for you. So that negates anything that says you're a sinner. Yeah, you're still going to struggle with sin because sanctification is a lifelong process, but it's less and less. The closer you get to Jesus, the further away you get from sin. You can't live in intimate proximity with a holy God and just be like, yeah, getting drunk sounds great. It doesn't. Sin doesn't sound good when you've tasted life.
It's true.
Like it doesn't. So when you walk in right identity and come into agreement with what he says about you, insecurities fell off me and I stopped caring what people thought about me because he taught me to live unto the audience of only him. And so if I live with my heart in the place of this is before the Lord, even if people see it, even if 1,000 people see what I do, it's first and foremost to him, for him, and unto him than it is anything else. And then when you come into agreement with what he says about you, then everything else dies. Like even struggling on and off after getting saved, and we talked about this with like lust and pornography, that broke when I came into agreement and he broke off of me the lie that I believed that I was a man who would just always struggle with, because it was part of being a man was having to constantly struggle with lust and pornography. And that's not true. That's sin. And Jesus paid the price for all sin for you to be washed clean of all sin and to give you a new identity. And so if some insecurities come from a place of sin, well, whatever you got to do, man. And for me, it was like a lot of different times and a lot of time, like literally crying out to the Lord. And I mean like crying, like a 20-year-old or 19 or 20-year-old, I'll say boy, because I wouldn't consider myself a man. My 18, 19-year-old boy self, like snot-nosed, going after the Lord and what he says about me. Because that's what it takes, is you have to die to yourself. And security comes from right identity.
Yeah.
Anything else is a lie. Anything else is not actual security if it's not right identity.
Yeah. You can't find security in a job. You can't find security in a woman. You can't find security in your friends. You can't find security in what other people think about you. You can't find security in how much money you make.
Yep.
You won't find it.
Yeah, it's so, like, even the logic with that works out, because you can only put your security in something that will never leave and that is like proven and is unshakable.
Yeah.
And is eternal. And so if my identity is in the God who created the galaxies and he is the same yesterday and today and forever, then my security is not going anywhere. But if I put my identity in something, literally anything else.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in a place where I put my identity actually in something else. And then that thing was taken out of my life, and it took me into a spiral. Like, it wrecked me because I didn't even realize I had put my identity into that thing. And then as soon as it was taken away, I was like, oh my gosh, like I put my identity in that. Like, if I don't have that, I didn't even realize I was thinking it. But some part of you, if you're not careful, can go, yeah, if this is out of my life, like, I need this, that's a red flag. If you say, I need something that's not Jesus, that's a red flag.
It's good.
And I've even heard, I don't think it's for everyone, but I've even heard people say, like, about their husbands and wives, if I reach a point where, and this is from a sermon that I listened to, this guy was saying, like, freedom in Jesus is, I don't need my wife. Because if she dies or something happens to her and I'm at a place where I need you and I can't function without you, well, then you've placed identity and security in something that like your life is over if that thing's taken out of your life. And that seems like really extreme, but I really do believe it's the reality, because if your security is in right identity in Jesus, then you're good.
Then you're set.
Yeah. Like, you're okay. And it's not by no means, it's not easy to get there, because dying to yourself is painful and not fun, but you won't ever have security, and you won't ever like yourself, because it's not, as Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. And we think like, well, I can't love myself. No, you don't love your flesh. You don't love who you used to be. You love who God created you to be, because he loves you in new identity. Well, he loved you even when you're a sinner, but you can love who he created you to be. Yeah. And that's something that, like, I think I even still struggle with sometimes, for sure. And even like saying this, I'm thinking like, we'll probably listen to this in a year or 2 years and be like, yeah, that probably wasn't right. Learn. No, literally, we'll go back and watch this. And I think that that's just the reality. You just have to be humble enough to go like, you know what? Like, honestly, everything that we're saying right now is things that we've learned and gone through. And I've been a Christian for like 6 years now. I'm only 23, so I'm speaking from my 23-year-old experience that is just so small. Yeah. But it's good to know that, like, I'll probably will go back and watch this podcast and maybe next year and be like, yeah, that probably wasn't for sure. That thought might have been good, but wasn't fully fledged out. And so I missed some things with whatever it is, something on here I'm sure that I'll say that I'll be like, yeah, no, I probably should get more context there. I probably should have elaborated that a little more with what I've learned. And I think that's just a good and healthy mindset to have. Yeah.
That's good.
Bucket hat.
What?
Gold chain, son. I don't know how people like hold their chain in their mouth or bite down on their chain when they're working out. I just feel good. It's a metal. I don't want to bite down on metal. Delicious. It doesn't feel good on my teeth.
I wouldn't know what that's like.
Okay. I need to buy a necklace and bite down on it. That's all my references to.
Trying to think, is there anything else? What you would tell your younger self?
I don't know. I'll just say, like, the biggest thing is to any man. Like, you just have to be humble. You have to work. You have to take care of yourself. You need to make sure that, I'll say, another thing that I would say, like, kind of off topic is, like, don't you dare get in a relationship with a girl if you're still struggling with lusting or pornography. Because guess what? That's adding live ammo into that equation. If you can't handle yourself by yourself when you're single, you best believe you're not going to handle yourself when there's an actual girl that's attracted to you. Yep. You're going to fail every time. So that's well, not that I did anything stupid when I was like 18, 19, but just the reality of, like, you're fooling yourself if you think you can love God's daughter in purity if you can't steward your own purity well. And that's not a condemning. That's just
it's the reality.
It's just the reality. Yeah. If you want to do marriage well and the best marriage that God has for you, make sure you step into it with a pure mind and a pure heart, and know that anyone that has made it this far, because guys, we've talked about this like a few times already, but the whole lust and pornography and any sin, if you don't believe that you can be free from sin, I am either completely crazy or I'm living in actual freedom, like blood bought by Jesus freedom. Because there are people who in different sects of Christianity will say, no, you're crazy. You can't be that free in your mind. You can't not struggle with lust. You can't look at a girl and not think that. You can't be in XYZ circumstance or scenario and have this presented to you or do this. And you're saying you wouldn't choose sin. I was like, yeah, I can. It's reality. So I'm either lunatic or I actually have been living in the freedom that Jesus said he paid for and did pay for.
And I think that carries into a lot of other stuff too, of like, if you're walking with Jesus, all right, well, what is the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. All of those things are not normal things that people walk around with. What do most people walk around with? Bitterness, selfishness, anger, hate, discontentment. People walk depression, anxiety, fearfulness, like in all of those things. Like that is our natural human inclination, is to not look how Jesus calls us and actually invites us in to look like. And like what you said, there will be a lot of people who you can't actually have, well, then I'm sorry, but Jesus came, I forgot where it says it, but he came to give life and life abundantly, not life to like, oh, you know, I kind of not.
He's like John.
I'm sometimes angry and like, no.
It is John 15 because he talks about the vine. It's in John. It's either John 8 or it's John 15. We'll plug the scripture later.
But yeah, of like, you have to, whenever you abide in Jesus, when you look like Jesus, whenever you're spending time with Jesus, well, then you're going to look like him and you're going to look less like your human fleshly self. And honestly, I think for the big C church and as Christians, like there's more available than we let ourselves on. Of like, no, like Jesus actually came and like paid the price so that I could be free and that I could not have to deal with whatever. Like anything that's not from him, Lord has like invited you into freedom. And so again, it goes back to like, we're actually the caps to believing that. It's ourselves, and not only it's our flesh, it's the enemy, and it's the world. Those are our three enemies. But like there's more available as a Christian than we let ourselves on to believe. There's more available than you think there is.
I'll also say, I think probably my last thought to maybe younger self, and I think we're like kind of winding down on time.
No, you're good.
It's something that I'm just now learning. I say just now, like I've made it so far. I'm 23, so I'm like, I probably am, by the grace of God, figuring some of this stuff out before other people. And I say that as in like, I think we over spiritualize things and we overthink things to the point where like, I'm just now realizing that because there's this beautiful thing called free will, God created everyone uniquely with different passions and desires. And you know what is okay? It is okay for me to give my very best effort to something that I'm passionate about, and it won't take place of Jesus, but I can absolutely give my all to something like bodybuilding. I can absolutely give my all to something like, well, not me, but you, to this podcast and all that. And it's okay. Like I can find a job that like I enjoy and I can give it my all and I can do my very best at it and I can pursue career in that. Or I can have a passion, I can pursue it with everything in me. As long as my heart's pure, like it's okay to go after something that you love. Like God's not gonna be like, no, I created you like specifically and uniquely and you have a love for this, but don't pursue it. Like, no. Like if you have like this like inclination to go after something, like, I mean,
because nothing is an accident.
Yeah. Like there are people that like video games. I don't understand the like going after it like professionally or whatever. But like there's some people that like really love video games or fishing. Like if you love fishing, be the best fisherman you can possibly be. If you love building things, become the best that you possibly can be at building things. If it gives you life, then lean into that and allow God to speak to you through that. Like, since probably 2 or 3 months ago, when I don't know when, but the Lord just like, I just realized like, wow, like it is like, it's okay for me to go after like a bodybuilding and fitness. Like, I could pursue this and make it like a career, because the Lord's like, yeah, like, I put that in you. That's okay to do. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you can go after your passions, and it's and it's okay. It's not going to override your calling or your relationship with God.
Yeah. If anything, you're learning something. And
He's taught me so many things through that, and just in that. I think that's kind of important. Is if we're talking like anyone, our younger selves, or whoever's watching this, the like younger self, me at 18, 19, 20, is I feel like everything we're saying is like all contextualized in because we're talking to our younger selves, like relationship with Jesus and the church and stuff like that. But I think like, man, you can't override God's calling on your life. Like, if you're pursuing Him, then He'll make it happen when it's time to happen. And it's okay to pursue the things you're passionate about. You actually should pursue the things that you're passionate about and give it your very best effort. Even if it's hard. Yeah. Even if those things don't look like you could achieve them. Because I think a lot of people, they give up on their dreams of that. That's not realistic. Yeah. Could be an accountant, not dissing any accountants, but like, don't settle. Don't settle. You live once. I've even thought about it of like, dang, do I want to look back on my life whenever I'm 70, 80? Do I want to look back and be like, dang, I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have lived more free. I wish I would have loved people better. I wish I would have not taken things so seriously. I don't want to live and look back on my life whenever I'm that old and be like, man, I let some of these things that we've talked about, I let those things hold me back. Because you only get one shot at it. Don't waste it. Any closing thoughts? I don't think so. I think that is all I would have said to 18-year-old me. Like, just, yeah. Yeah. You don't need to buck authority. It's okay to be submitted to your parents. Oh, yep. It's a good one. I remember standing in the office with my dad. Oh my gosh. I would have punched me in the face. But I remember something, I don't remember what was going on, but I remember I stood in the doorway to our office in our house, and my dad was telling me about something. And I remember, like, it wasn't even a big deal. I think it was some situation with work, with like where I was working, and just some people situation, or like something like that. But I remember to my dad as an 18-year-old, and this man has been through like more than almost anyone that I've ever met. And I remember telling him, I'm a man. I'm a grown man. Because of some, I don't know where it came from. Still. Stupid 18-year-old brain. Somehow my 18-year-old brain thought, like my 18-year-old self thought that because I worked full time and like I was doing things with the church that I was attending, that like I was a grown man and I could take care of myself. And I was like, bro, I couldn't live on my own. Like, how you think you're a grown man? I'm 23, and I wouldn't even say like I'm a grown man. Like, I still think I'm a kid in a lot of ways. Like, I still have so much growing up to do. And so to think like, you idiot, you were not grown at 18 or 19 or 20. You know, I don't even know if you're grown now. And so just to being like, bro, don't ever think to yourself, I'm a grown man, or I'm a man. Or you've made it. Yeah, you will never make it. If you really are a man, then people will acknowledge that, and you won't have to say blah, blah, blah. You won't have to say that you made it. You won't have to say that you're a man, because the goal is to be a man of God. Yep. And so when you have arrived at what it looks like to be a man of God.
Mm-hmm.
People will acknowledge that. And the Lord will use people to acknowledge that you've arrived at that level of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've accomplished something that you want to accomplish, like, or you've not made it, because you can always grow more, like, God will affirm that. But there's no place for pride. God will always humble the proud. With that, because he sure did me. I had a motorcycle wreck so well, you can't really see it now, but literally, like, that's why I wrecked my motorcycle and almost died, was because I was being prideful and I thought I was all that. And then I wrecked a motorcycle going 85 miles an hour and almost died. That'll humble you real quick. So, yeah, that's my last thing to say.
Yep. Yeah, I think
don't tell your dad that you're a man.
when you 18, who do you think you are, boy? Yeah. I think I would say, and for anyone else listening to this, like, man, you have to loving Jesus is it, especially if you've been in Christian circles for a long time, loving Jesus and letting him love you is the most important thing.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian, and if you're not a Christian, like, it'll mess around with it. It'll change your life.
Yeah, that's Chris Gabby likes to say. Mess around. Get your whole life changed.
See what happens.
Yeah.
But as a person, in Matthew, it talks about seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. I think in this day and age, in this culture, there's a lot of things, and not even just like in culture tells you that you want, but in your mind and what you think is valuable and what you want and what you need. Some of it's good and some of it you need. But if you are not whenever, like the Bible says, whenever you're running after Jesus, then he takes care of you.
Yep.
And it might be a materialistic thing. But most of the time it's spiritual, it's emotional. It's a lot of other things and then the material thing just happens to be the little icing on the top.
And you know what? If you don't need it and you think you do, and you're pursuing the Lord, and his promise is that he will give you everything that you need, and there's something that you think you need and you don't have it, well, guess what? You probably don't actually need that right now.
Yeah. And like, the Lord will take care of you. As a younger self, and as you're, as a guy, there's a lot of pressure to have it figured out or whatever, but like, the Lord's going to take care of you. There's going to be a lot of times where you think, dude, what am I doing? Am I an idiot? Why am I doing this? What am I in the right position? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Or am I crazy for sticking around? Am I crazy for doing this hard thing? Like, just be faithful with what it is that the Lord has given you. Be diligent. Be the hardest worker, but be the most loving person. Love people really well. Be kind. Be freely give, because as much as we've been given, which is, salvation and everything else is we've been given everything. Well, then why would we not give back? Why would we not love? Because we're being loved and we are being taken care of. If you really believe that Jesus promises you that you will be taken care of in every way, well, then you are secure, and then you are free to then love and to serve and to do all the other things, because you're being taken care of, because you're selfless. And so, you love God and you follow after him and you obey him and you do what it is that he's called you to do. Man, watch what happens whenever he takes care of you, when he opens doors for you, whenever you realize it's not all about you and what you can do and how smart you are and who you know, and it doesn't matter. Like, God is going to take care of you, and you just have to be humble. You have to love really well. You have to look like Jesus. And that only comes by loving Jesus and letting him love you, and letting him knock off those rough edges. And it's the only way to live.
Also, lift weights.
Yeah.
If you're or a girl, hit the gym and lift weights.
Yep.
That's it. That's a wrap.
Yep.
Did you see that? You're good. No, I'm just kidding. Love Jesus, lift weights.